Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. We made it through another week, and I am super excited to chat about what's next at IT Expo, the big tech super show coming up in Fort Lauderdale. One of my favorite events, get togethers every year. And of course, we are back, and we're going to chat about the event, some tech trends, and we have some really interesting guests for this show. So we'll go around the table here and introduce my esteemed guest. I always start with Rich Tehrani of TMC IT Expo, chairperson. Rich, how are you?
I'm doing great, Evan, other than the fact that we've got flurries once again here in Connecticut. But other than that, life is good, and I can't wait to get down to IT Expo February 13th through 15th and sunny Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it's the highlight of my February every year. And take us back. Talk about the beginning of IT Expo going back, gosh, decades, I dare I say, to the present. And, the show has changed and evolved a lot. So what are we in for?
So it's going to be an amazing event. It's a business technology event. I'd say it's the business technology event. It's a global show. We attract people from from Japan, all over Asia, Europe, and they come to this event to see what's next in technology. The show was once a communications event. If you go back to 1999, it was Internet Telephony Conference and Expo, and we spent a lot of years over the it's 25th year now for the show. There's actually been 41 events. The event used to take place twice a year, and we've been focusing on increasing the tech exhibitor presence at the show and the tech audience at the show. And so now we've got a mix in terms of the total audience, a mix of service providers like your Verizons, your AT&Ts, all the way down to regional telephone companies and phone companies from the Caribbean and Latin America, et cetera. And then we've got enterprise from the largest of the large companies all the way down to midsize. There are developers there, people who are looking to develop the next big thing. And another really fast-growing segment of the audience is the channel/MSP audience. Those two audiences are merging. There are people who are reselling the products and services of other companies. And we'll see thousands of that group at the show. Totally, if you look at the total audience, 7 to 8,000 total people will be at the show, and exhibitors somewhere between 300, 400 exhibitors in that range, hundreds and hundreds of speakers, conference sessions. There's demo theaters. And why would you come to this show? Because in a few days, you can accomplish what could take you online literally weeks or months or longer, and you may not even be able to accomplish. You come to the show, for example, if you happen to be a managed service provider, an MSP, a company that resells other companies' products, you're looking to figure out your pricing. What am I doing with my pricing? Do I need to increase prices, decrease prices? How do I get people to pay me recurring charges? You'll be able to talk to your peers. You'll be able to talk to the experts. You'll be able to talk to the hardware vendors. You'll be able to bounce ideas off of other people, all in a one-on-one setting, knowing that you're talking to actual people, as opposed to sometimes when you read reviews online, you don't know if it's a real review. It's not a real review. It's difficult to know what's real there. But at a show, you can actually kick the tires, talk to people, touch the products, see what you might want to resell. If you're an enterprise, we're seeing a disruption, Evan, like we've never seen in our lives with AI. This is the most disruptive technology since maybe the web browser, the PC, and we're just at I'd say the first inning. And the purchases the companies make today, the strategies that they set in motion today, are going to affect whether they're viable organizations within 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It'll determine their pricing, it'll determine their margins, it'll determine their ability to differentiate. So, it's really exciting. That's just an overview. There's so much. It's a tech super show, as you said. It's actually multiple shows, about 10 shows in one, and lots of different topics from IoT to smart city, to the future of work, to the future of the customer experience, which which kind of crosses over into contact center. I mean, it's just an unbelievable event that is not duplicated anywhere else.
Yeah, well said. And it really is a unique experience, not just a trade show. And we have Julie Smith from Snom.
Hello.
Snom has been out there for decades. Hey, Julie from sunny San Diego, probably one of the most innovative suites of IP phones and related products in the industry. And you're a sponsor and an exhibitor. Julie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. We're going to see each other soon in Fort Lauderdale. For those who aren't aware of Snow, maybe introduce your portfolio and kind of the mission. You've been around this game for a while at Snow.
Yes, I personally have not, but Snow has been around for a while, and they design and manufacture professional enterprise VoIP telephones. This year, I actually have been on with the company for about 4 months as their channel marketing manager. So very excited to come down to IT Expo. Andy and I can speak to this both, but we are really trying to kind of redesign the way that we actually go to shows and present, because to Rich's point, I really do think, like, in marketing for me, it really centers around events. You have a much more in-person personal touch with people. You can really dig into different parts of the channel, and from there kind of create more of a robust strategy for how we do marketing and how we develop our sales programs. So I'm pretty excited to come down and see everyone there.
Brilliant. And talk about the channel, because it is a big channel event, IT Expo. You have the channel partners there. You have the MSPs, the VARs, the distributors. Yep. What does the channel landscape look like today, and how is it sort of changing?
Well, I know for us over at Snom, it's changing I think in terms of how we really kind of aggressively go in and enable our MSPs and other channel partners. I think I really can't speak to the past. Like I said, I've only been here for 4 months, but Mark Magliano, who's leading the Snom charge in terms of our channel, he really wants us to take a much more active approach in terms of going out and kind of aggressively pursuing how we drive marketing initiatives and therefore pulling sales back through the whole channel. So it's been really fun to be part of that with him. So
yeah, well, it's going to be fun, and there is a lot of fun going to be happening as well. Speaking of Mr. Fun, Andy Abramson always keeps us entertained. He's one of the. Can we call you an old timer for IT Expo? Is that a slur, Andy? Or
I'm a veteran.
A veteran, okay, a veteran old timer, Mr. Exit.
I'm not an old timer because I'm still playing day in and day out. The old timers only come out on the ice once in a while, and as evidenced by my old hockey career with the Flyers and the Celebrity All-Star Hockey Team, which included a bunch of old timers, but the Flyers were current players. And like Julie, like Rich, like you, I am a player.
You are, and so for those of you young ones who don't know Andy, Mr. Fix-It, and what you do in your background, give us the full history of Andy Abramson.
I exit companies. I work with startups. My first gig was a pro lacrosse team public relations assistant at the age of 14. Then at 16, I helped the late Ed Snyder and his ownership group establish the first ever fan development organization in professional sports. Then 2 years later, got to run it for the next 12 years of my career. Been involved in sports marketing, tech marketing, advertising, PR, mostly integrated marketing, and what I like to call today asymmetrical, kind of cut through the crap and make sure things happen. Working with Julie and Mark on a ton of initiatives in the Snom universe. We focus on 3 verticals, obviously, the distributor channel, the MSP channel, and the resellers. And what's great about coming to IT Expo is it's all there. It's one great heterogeneous group of people, as opposed to going to some of the more siloed, vertical, homogeneous events that are out there where you only have distributors, you only have retail. So looking at that, in the telecom world, what we've done, 25, 26 exits, 58 overall, $9 billion returned to founders, executives, and investors, people like Rich, because now that he's on the equity and capital side of the market, not just being a publisher, but he's ventured out into the venture world. So we've been able to help companies accelerate their growth through what we call value creation communication. More important to me than the 58 or 59 or $9 billion, it's Google bought 2. They bought Grand Central, then they bought Gips. Vonage bought Simple Signal and Sphere. Nokia bought PhoneAv. Logitech bought SiteSpeed, and the list goes on and on and on in the telecom sector. We also helped TruePhone grow to an over $1 billion investment and multi-billion dollar valuation. So I'm kind of Mr. Exit, but at the same time, we're really about growth, but we're about growth through the value creation that can be built by having a great story to tell. Because Evan, we know you've got a great story from your days back at Acme Packet, who are now owned by Oracle, not one of my exits, but one of yours. And everyone has to have that story retold. And we call that legend, because a legend is what somebody says about you. But at the bottom line, your legend and your story are only as good as the facts. The old just the facts, ma'am, from Joe Friday. Well, the backstory are your facts. So we help companies put all that together. And after 58, I have to say, it's no longer luck.
Well said. So let me ask you before we continue with the panel, is it the best of times, the worst of times for early stage companies and startups, growth companies in teleco and beyond? What's the temperature out there when it comes to the kind of companies you worked with for so many decades?
Well, people have been pronouncing voice over IP dead for years. They've been saying, and I don't think it is. Quite the opposite. IP communications has never been more alive, and now it's being enhanced by all types of things like artificial intelligence and network slicing on the data side, cloud communication platforms where you can compute much faster than you could with traditional tandem switches. So voice over IP is far from dead. The problem is the marketers are all very flat, and they're all doing the same thing, and they're all saying the same thing, and they lack differentiation. I can walk down the aisles at IT Expo and close my eyes, and it's like being on an airplane. Can you tell the difference between Delta and American when you're up in the air if you took the logos off? No. And that's the problem. There's too much sameness. I coined the phrase, Rich will remember the blog post from 2007 or so, me too, me also, me different. And the lack of differentiation is what is impacting it. To your question about, is it a good time to start one? Yes, it's always a good time to start one if you have a better idea, and if you have a better way of executing, and if you have a better way of going to market. The challenges that I see, Evan, to your question, are that there's a lot of dry powder sitting on the sidelines that isn't investing yet in anything, because they can put the money out on the street and get 10 to 12% return on their money over a 1 or 2 month period by just loaning it. So a lot of that offline capital in family offices and in high net worth individuals who used to throw money into early stage companies is on the sidelines. On the other hand, there's a ton of emerging manager funds that are all across the West that love to make investments of $50,000 to $200,000. They raise 20 to 30 million, and then they're hands on, knee deep into the startup. So is it done? No. Is there money out there? Yes. And is it going into smart companies? Absolutely. You just have to be a lot sharper and a lot smarter how you go after it.
Well said, as always. So back to IT Expo, Rich. Explain to a new attendee, a new sponsor, a new exhibitor. It can be a little overwhelming. Explain the format, the setup, the different tracks. How do they jump in, dive in, and get started?
So you go to itexpo.com, it's just itexpo.com, and then you start looking at some of the co-located events. And, I'm looking at it right now in front of me on my screen. I mean, there's an IoT co-located event, IoT Evolution it's called, an MSP Expo, et cetera. I don't want to go through every one. It's people can just look for themselves. But one I should actually point out is probably Generative AI Expo. It's now the second year that we're doing that event, and it was successful the first time. We literally had 3 weeks to promote it the first time, and which was this last February, and now it's been a year, and it's grown nicely. Great speakers, nice audience of large companies from around the globe are going to be attending the conferences. But basically, look, think of IT Expo as the ultimate place for your buying team to come and figure out what's next in communications and technology. And I say communications and technology because these used to be disparate disciplines, and to some degree they are, but they're merging, and they've been merging for 25 years or longer. And especially with voice over IP, and just, that's obviously allowed voice to just ride along an IP network. And so if you're looking to become a more productive organization, a more competitive organization, an organization that is able to work effectively and to stay ahead in an ever-changing tech landscape, you've got to come to shows like IT Expo. And we don't think there's anything exactly like our show, just because our mix of exhibitors, our mix of conference sessions, and the people that we have speaking is unique. And we've done a really, we put a lot of hours into ensuring that we've got the best mix of speakers, exhibitors, etc., at this event, to make sure that you can come and speak with your peers, see what they're doing, see what's worked for them, see what hasn't worked, and really kind of not have to go to the school of hard knocks and just get banged up out there by making mistakes. You talk to people who are doing similar things to what you want to do, and you are able to quickly make decisions that would take a lot longer if you didn't have access to all these people in one place under one roof. And again, the networking, you literally will see networking at the breakfast where people are talking and getting a better sense of what everyone does and making connections. And then you get into the conference sessions, and then the exhibit hall opens, and there's even more talking and back and forth. And then we typically have networking events at night. And so you go to those networking events, and you have a beer or whatever with some other people, like-minded people. You talk to them, you learn more. And the point is that you go from a business setting where it's like a business breakfast, a business lunch, and exhibit hall, to more relaxed settings in the evening, where it's a great way to just ingest more information, talk to your peers, figure out what they're doing, figure out what's working, what's not working. And like I said, you don't make the mistakes yourself, and you stay ahead of the competition. And like I said in the earlier segment, AI is revolutionizing everything. I mean, to Andy's point, if you look at these large language models of what we've seen with OpenAI and some of these other GPT models, what differentiates them and what makes them better is data. And a lot of the important data that takes place within an organization is the phone calls that are being made either within the organization or from people within the organization to the outside world, the contact center, et cetera, the sales team, the support team. There is so much crucial information buried inside of these organizations, because those phone calls right now, I mean, we haven't done anything with them for the most part. And so now, as AI has gotten better, we are able to take those, it's a trove of information, treasure trove, and just pour it through AI and make better decisions, figure out how to serve our customers in a more efficient manner, a more productive manner, getting the right answer to the customer, maybe even before they ask, right? That's the kind of thing that AI can do that we weren't able to do before. So I want to basically take what Andy said, his optimism, and go to the next level with it and say, there is so much excitement out there in terms of what can happen. And if you're selling the old commoditized, just, voice over IP, it's a more challenging business for you because it's competitive and it's commoditized, right? Like I said, so prices come down. How do you add value? How do you take something that was commoditized and make it valuable so that the customer sees that they can make more money by spending more money? And that's I think what is going to be the exciting thing for the communications world in the next 3 to 5 years. And we're also going to see more of a blend of communications and IT and software and SaaS. All of that is going to come together, and we're going to see more interoperability. And that's why you want to come to a show like IT Expo, because you've got these disparate systems. How do you get them to talk with one another to have them work more productively together, reduce the lag between the different systems, and then optimize performance?
Wow, mic drop moment there. Thoughts, Andy? What would you add to that quite compelling vision?
Rich is spot on as usual. The people like Thomas Howe are working on, former client Thomas Howe, who's at Stralid, working on using things like robot food, which is a conserver that listens to contact center calls, prepares reports, helps managers identify lost opportunities. Talking with Craig Walker the other day at Dialpad, long time person who's spoken many times at IT Expo, was up on stage about 12 years ago with Rich and I and others as some of the true leaders in VoIP when we were honored there, and it was great. Dialpad's built their own large language model because of the concern around PII, personal identifiable information. And I agree with that. A lot of these companies that you're working with and talking to are relying on OpenAI's ChatGPT and Whisper in their own technology and their LLM, the large language model, Google with Bard, Llama, etc. Well, what you're doing is you're feeding the beast, to quote Cloudphone's Bob Hertz, who's been a longtime software engineer and technology visionary. You're feeding the beast. So you're putting all this information into the collective, so to speak, the Borg, if you want to call it, if you want to take a Star Trek term, because everything reverts back to Star Trek and technology, if you think about it. You've got your flip phone, you've got your tricorder now that can do readings, you've got your video conferencing, and you've obviously got computer. All we're missing is Uhura and Spock, I think, on this call. But the reality is that you're feeding a public data set, even though it's owned by a company, versus what I understand from Craig is doing at Dialpad is they have their own private LLM, and your data as a customer of Dialpad stays your data. Which is funny because I was going to write a blog post about a year ago, and I actually interviewed one of his lawyers and decided not to write it because it was like, why tell everybody then, but only to be proven right? And it's true. So I think where we're going to start to see is more requirements and more stringency around privacy, around data security, information ownership, and management of the ownership. So we all check the box and it's okay to share my information with your partners. No, you don't check that box ever. The idea, otherwise you get spammed to death. Well, it's the same thing with information going into the LLM. You want to own it. I mean, Evan, your proprietary list of clients, you should not be putting in an LLM. On the other hand, a lot of your social media posts, you want to create some GPTs that you can do your own things. So you can amplify what you're doing, fine tune it, and do it smarter, faster, better, and cheaper, which means you can go from 500 clients to 1,000 overnight. Well, that's where you have to draw the line as to what's yours and what's theirs. And the current models that all these people are developing on, and read the tear sheets that come out every day of like Futurepedia and Future Tools and AI tools of the day. And I mean, there's dozens of those. Well, they're all pulling from the same data sets. They're pulling from the same databases. So there is no proprietary information there. There's nothing anybody really owns. They own their audience. Well, do they put their audience into the LLM? I don't know. So that means, would you put your phone calls into an LLM and all the information about your customers into an LLM? Or would you like to keep that in your own data set, which I know Dialpad's doing? And I haven't heard anybody else doing that. They're all quick to say, oh, we formed a relationship with OpenAI and we're doing this. So that, I think, is going to be an interesting topic of discussion at IT Expo. I've got 5 panels, 6 as soon as Eric gets back to me on our Getting Visible panel that Rich and Evan will hopefully be on with me, and we'll get Jeff Pulver up there if he comes to Fort Lauderdale. And I'm looking for somebody in the AR space, in the analyst space, because I think there's an interesting angle as well, but how they're using AI. And AI is definitely going to change everything we do and how we do it and the way we do it. And quite honestly, the moment has passed. If you're not using AI, and if you're not putting AI into your products or services, the bus has left the station. You can't have.
Well, that's another mic drop moment, and I'm using it. I feel like I have a team of 10 now with all the different Gen AI tools that I use. So, this live stream gets magically turned into TikTok, and clips get turned into audio podcasts, gets turned into blogs with the click of a button. All that content everywhere, and I'm a team of 1, so it's just amazing the opportunities for every profession. One thing I would like to touch on, Julie, is at Snom, you're there because there's a big presence around future of work and hybrid work and hot desking and telecommuting, and that's an area that you play in very strongly. What are you seeing there? Why are customers deploying Snom at such scale, and how are they using you?
Well, actually, keeping it on the AI topic, we've actually even started integrating AI into what we're currently doing over at Snom. We've been doing some live demos with some of our partners that are actually starting to use AI technology. So in terms of why I think people will deploy us, one of the things that we've tried to kind of shift focus on is instead of just selling a product, which is obviously what we have as phones, we're trying to sell things as more of like a solution based. We're going solution based. So when we like reach out to our partners in our channel and when we're looking at where our end customer ends up being, what are the issues that they're running into and can we create a solution at Snom to then have them want to deploy our phones specifically? Because, I think we have some of the best technology, but it's still just a phone. So how can you then create solutions to make that phone more desirable? And I think a couple of things I think we do better. I do think that a lot of our technology is just very solid. I also think that we have a really great warranty program. So with a lot of customers, if they have an issue with any of the hardware that they have, a lot of times they'll have to send a phone back. They have to wait 2 weeks to get a replacement. We have a 3-year, on-demand replacement policy where if you have an issue with a phone, we send you out one right away. So we know when people are working remotely, working from home, they have to keep that workflow at speed and at scale. We don't want that to be broken up by them not having the products they need in a timely fashion. So a couple of things that differentiate us, but I do think in terms of the AI space and just kind of looking at how our technology can, affect in terms of a larger solution, that is one of the things that we are trying to focus on, is just looking at what solutions we can be participating in at scale. So.
Yeah, really cool. I love your wireless products too. I used one once, and I think it was a DECT phone, and man, that thing was great. I mean, really crystal clear audio, and
I'm a new convert actually.
Yeah,
so
no,
I actually
really
have
cool.
I have a Snom phone at my home, and I tend to have really dead cell signals around here. My phone that I have from Snom, it's like I just don't even make calls on my cell phone when I'm at the house because I don't know why. I mean, being in California, it seems strange, but we have just major dead zones with cell service. But again, that phone is my lifeline for work. So, yeah.
Yeah, some of us have to actually work. They can't sit on video all day. They have to actually make phone calls and get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly.
And have video calls, et cetera. So it's good to hear. And Rich, it's interesting. I mean, historically, IT Expo was known as the UC and VoIP show, but there's so many different threads now. It's kind of something for everyone. You have a big cybersecurity track, which I'm interested in catching up on, and wireless. We talked DECT wireless, but you have a big 5G, industrial 5G IoT track as well. Talk about the different threads and how you bring them together.
Well, it all started back in the 90s, believe it or not, when there was a challenge that the MSPs at the time, we called them VARs, value-added resellers, had no idea what telecom was, and they didn't know how it worked, and there were two disparate worlds. And to some degree, there's still differences between the people who really know telecom and the people who are consider themselves IT, right? There's software, and then there's hardware, and how do these things work together? And likewise, when you get to the mobile network. And the point is that the worlds are merging, and they started merging for me, or at least at the show, we first noticed it when our reseller community was disparate. We had these IT people who didn't really think they needed to be at our show. They didn't understand telecom, but we had to get these products out to market via a different group than just the traditional telecom resellers, because there were these new products coming out that were a blend of both, of telecom and datacom. We called it CTI, computer telephony, whatever we called it back then. There were different terms to talk about this merging. And since then, I've seen, and I think we've all seen, more and more merging of different technologies that are all coming together. For example, if you talk about augmented reality, 5G is really set up for augmented reality, right? They're working on edge computing, where they're putting servers close to dense population centers so that you can have low lag time, so that you can use augmented reality and virtual reality over 5G. So I mean, that's an example of just two of these technologies coming together. You mentioned cybersecurity. Well, cybersecurity, like AI, is touching everything. So to have voice over IP phone systems that we are using, UCaaS phone systems, and to not have proper cybersecurity is just a recipe for disaster. So cybersecurity touches everything. But more importantly, the resellers are looking for ways to become more successful and more productive and make more money. And so they don't want to come to an event that just has telecom. And to Andy's point, right, we touch on all these different spaces from earlier. He said that, and the reason we do that is because if you're a reseller, you want to see everything that's out there. And if you don't have an event that can tell you all the products that are interesting for you to sell, then you're not going to go to that event. So we have to make sure we have a proper environment for all these different constituencies. And we have seen a continuous crossover between these different markets over the decades. And I expect that will continue. And I expect that, IoT will continue to be an important part of technology, and it'll touch on communications, and AI and IoT will work together. Like we're beginning to see that happen now. For example, there are certain parts of the country that have a lack of rain, and they have, issues where they're not allowed to use a lot of water, like California. Using AI and IoT sensors together to try to determine the optimal watering pattern for your crops maximizes the efficiency of your farm. And I know that may be an esoteric example, but it just shows you how these disparate technologies are coming together to solve business problems and to increase farm productivity and farm profitability, right? So, and that it's the same thing for all businesses. You come to a show like IT Expo, and you can see how all these different technologies work together, can make your life better, can make you shine in your career. And more importantly, you're going to want to bring other people from different divisions within your organization to come to this show with you. Maybe the people focused on IoT or who are thinking about implementing IoT, and the voice over IP people and the AI people and the cybersecurity people. You bring them together as a team. We're seeing more and more of that. And that buying team makes their decisions in one place at the beginning of the year when budgets are set. And now they're all ready for 2024. They're ready to stay competitive. And they can start implementing all of the technologies that they've put on a short list at IT Expo over the next 6 months. They implement, and then they come back the next year to see what's next, how they can improve, talk to their peers again. And it's really exciting for us. We're thrilled that this is our 25th year doing this, and hopefully with any luck, another 25 years after this.
Brilliant. Well, it's yes, 25 more years, please. Andy, talk about something Rich touched on, making money and finding customers. Seems pretty simple, but the VC heady days of venture capital dollars are slowing down, and it's harder and harder to find customers and to keep them. So I imagine that's going to be a hot topic on your agenda.
Well, they look at run rate. That's the biggest thing is, what's your run rate? What's your monthly recurring revenue? What's your pipeline look like? Those are the things that investors are looking at now at Series A, whereas before Series A was spurt capital. Let me give you money to grow. And even into Series B, I mean, I remember the days of if you had a problem with an Uber Eats order, they just refunded you on the spot. Now, getting a refund is impossible. They may give you a token credit or something. As a matter of fact, they even announced that they're doing away with the $5 credit. Translation: the bankers are controlling how Uber makes money, and they want to keep seeing the profit at the bottom line. Talk to your Uber drivers. They're now making 40% when they used to make about 60 or 70% of the fare. That's a lot of it's going to Uber's overhead and bottom line. So investors these days are looking for, do you have a business there? I remember the old days. I'll pull out a name, Rich, you may remember, Hillary Mine from Probe Research, who, when I was leading Comgate's marketing and communication efforts back in the double aughts, that's a name from the past. That was one of the exits we had. She said, you're not a business until you have a customer. Trials don't count. And that's really true. If you don't have somebody paying you, you're an amateur. It's like I tell my winemaker friend in France, who always introduced me as a very serious amateur du vin, a big person, an amateur, a lover of wine. I handed him my wine bottle. I said, Sylvain, no more amateur du vin, professionnel, vigneron. And he smiled. And of course, and everything, and said, Andy, you make good wine. But the reality is, if you're not selling and if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. You just have an idea. So that's one of the things that you're going to see. The second thing I really think is coming out of the investment world is a more judicious eye on where pieces fit in the overall landscape. So are you an island unto yourself, Or are you something that's a really strong ecosystem play and can work well with others? Rich has built an ecosystem at IT Expo in many ways with the different component parts of the different shows and how well they play. And he's been able to do that as really humongous shows have shut down, but yet there was still a need for a gathering of people. So by taking advantage of others' misfortunes, IT Expo has become a springboard for new companies wanting to get into the space, which before the super shows of their own, where they're just very one vertical, you had to go to 10 of those. I mean, people who are in the trade show business were perpetually in a suitcase, living in a suitcase, going from event to event. And what Rich has done with IT Super Show is giving everybody one event to see 10 different verticals. So if you're a company that needs to compete in, say, 5 of them, you go to Fort Lauderdale once. You don't go to 5 different shows all over God's green earth, and then you end up with bags under your eyes and bags on both arms because you're carrying them. I think what we're seeing is consolidation, and investors look at how will all the pieces come together the same way. Where does this play in the ecosystem of technology, of product, of consumer product, business product, industrial products? How do you move between a B2B play for the SMB up to the mid-market and all the way into the enterprise? Can you scale? One of my pet peeves here in Las Vegas is there's all these startups. No, there's entrepreneurial ventures that are mom and pop that might grow into a 10, 15, $20 million a year business one day. But are they enterprise scalable? And enterprise scale, you sell 1,000 seats in one order or more. And if you're not, then you're a merchant play or an entrepreneur's play. And there's nothing wrong with that. $10, $20 million, if you can profit 33% a year, and by managing your COGS right, your cost of goods sold, managing your overhead, that's $6 to $7 million a year profit. If it's a husband and wife team doing that, or a couple of people doing that together, I think we can all live on $6 or $7 million a year, unless you're LeBron James or somebody in the NBA. But the reality is that enterprise scalable is what a lot of investors are looking for, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you can build a scale.
Wow, great insights, dropping some pearls of wisdom, Andy. So we have time for one more thought or question. Julie, you're in San Diego. We're headed to Fort Lauderdale. Who beats who on the climate on the beach there? Do you think West Coast, East Coast? Who wins the beach battle?
I mean, I'm gonna have to say West Coast just because I'm born and raised, so I got to stay true to my coast. But I will say, I think that I actually do prefer the humidity on the East Coast. I'm not gonna lie, we get a little dry out here. It's like we've got the ocean, but we've got mountains and desert right behind us. So and our ocean is.
I'll take either.
I've lived on both coasts, and the Atlantic City, New Jersey, Wildwood, Long Beach Island, and then even all the way up to some of the Massachusetts beaches, like Rich, what are some of the good beaches up that way? Or Evan, you've got
Cape Cod,
Cape Cod and Hyannis, and you've got other islands, all the outer islands that are there. You can go down to Providence, you can go to Long Island Sound. It's just something about the East Coast vibe of the beach, whereas the West Coast is beach boys and surfers and all that fun stuff. Yes, you have more sun, you have more warm weather throughout the year on the West Coast, but there's just something about the way the beach feels on the East Coast when you sink your toes into the sand versus on the West Coast. Yeah, the West Coast sand's probably cleaner, but you've got that little bit of pebble underneath as you walk on the Jersey Shore or you walk on the Florida beach.
That's a Friday feeling. Wow. Now I wish if it weren't at 12 degrees outside, I'd be totally going.
I would rather be right now. I'd rather be in Fort Lauderdale or Key West or Sarasota, where it's 75 and sunny, versus Vegas, where it's 40 and overcast.
Please, no more Vegas. I'm all Vegased out. But Rich, final thought, final takeaway before we wrap things up and get on with our Friday.
I think Andy said it really well, and that is you come to one show instead of going to 7 shows. You come during the buying season, which is typically Q1 when you're doing your budgeting, and you come where it's relatively nice weather compared to just about everywhere, but Julie, San Diego. I don't think San Diego is a huge spot for Florida shows. A huge place where we draw attendance from, because you guys live in a great place as well, great weather. But for those of us in the Midwest or the Northeast, Canada, Europe, a lot of people really enjoy spending a few days in the sun, being able to network outside, and then simultaneously being able to excel in their position, and also have their company do better because they come back from this event with information that would have taken weeks or months to gather if they weren't at a live event with like-minded individuals and experts, and sounding boards everywhere. And so ultimately, we've been doing this show now 25 years, and we've educated hundreds of thousands of attendees, and we invite everyone to come to IT Expo. Just go to itexpo.com and look at the different options, and come with an open mind and leave with infinite knowledge and wisdom about how you make your company better, more productive. If you are overwhelmed by AI, like even those of us that are on the front lines that are supposed to be experts on everything, right? That's kind of one of my roles, is that I'm supposed to be this tech guru on everything, right? And I feel like I do my best to be that, but it's overwhelming even for us, because it seems like there's new AI companies 3, 4, 5 a day with new models and new products and new things. Well, you can't implement them all at once, and you're going to have to talk to some other people who have implemented them to get a sense of what makes sense for your business. You just can't be on top of everything at once and then simultaneously go out and bet your company on a product or a service. It's better to talk to someone who's tried it. Has it worked for them? What have been the issues? And we ultimately believe that by bringing this ecosystem under one roof, like a large mall, that you can come and make your decisions in an unrushed space while simultaneously enjoying a little bit of fresh air when you're outside, and some nice weather. And then you come back supercharged for a great 2024 and beyond.
Wow, mic drop moment, Rich. If that doesn't appeal to someone, I don't know what will. So thank you, guys. Thanks for the update and all the insights and analysis. I learned a lot. Really fun, really helpful. And thanks for watching, everyone. Reach out to Rich and IT Expo, attend, sponsor. Reach out to Julie for the best IP phones in the industry. And reach out to Andy for wine tips. I'm not even going to ask for a wine recommendation, because we'll be about 2 hours here on the live stream. But that'll be a separate episode, Andy.
We should do that. One last thing. Do you realize Snom was the very first voice over IP phone ever?
Yeah, I didn't know they were the first. That's impressive. Made in Germany as well, I believe. So,
So I did not know that, but what I can tell you is that when we launched IT Expo, and I want to say it was 1999 or 2000, that there were representatives from Snom that came to the show, and they actually had their phones with them. And this is literally, we're going back like 24 years now. I remember those are the first ones I saw, Andy, to your point. I don't know if those were IP phones at the time.
They were. 98. 98. 98 they developed it, so it would have been a 99 show or the 2000 show in San Diego that you did at Coronado.
I saw them first back then we did the show in the Intercontinental in Miami if I remember correctly, in 2020. And I vividly remember because someone had a suitcase full. I remember seeing a suitcase full of these phones, and I was pretty blown away by it. So, Snom, thanks for being a supporter. Julie, thanks for being a supporter for,
of course,
for many, many years. And here's to another 25 years of growth for your company and the industry.
Great. Well, come hang out with Julie, Andy, Rich, and I, and share war stories about the 90s and the next decade. So we can balance that out. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Julie, for joining. Take care.
Bye.